Hi, everybody. This is Bob Burg. Welcome to episode 2 of Go Giver Influencers. And today we have an amazing Go Giver influencer with us, and I can't wait to introduce you to her. Today, I guess the theme will be looking at belief systems and really what they even mean. A belief is a subjective truth. It's the truth as we understand the truth to be, which means it may be the truth, or it might just be our truth. And as human beings, we all were brought up with beliefs, with a belief system, belief systems, combination of upbringing, environment, schooling, news media, television shows, movies, culture, cultural mores, everything. And it's pretty much etched in stone by the time we're little more than toddlers. And most of us grow up and our lives are lived with based on an unconscious operating system, which we don't even realize we have. It's unconscious. And so we assume that the way we see the world is the way it is, but we also assume others see the world the way we see it, which is typically not true. And most conflict is a result of two people seeing basically the same thing from two different viewpoints. And so we need to understand that the other person probably doesn't see the world as we see the world. That's why we need to step into the other person's shoes. However, stepping into another person's shoes can be difficult because most of us have different size feet. So we can't always do that unless we're willing to ask questions and listen. Listen not just with our ears, but with the back of our necks, our entire being, so we can understand where that other person's coming from. Now, before we meet Lisa, I can't wait till you meet Lisa. I wanted to ask you a question. We ended last time with a kind of an exercise that we could use to begin to master our emotions. And it was envisioning those usual incidents where someone says or does something that irritates us, or just an event that kind of causes us to make ourselves uncomfortable or defensive or edgy or angry. And how to go through an exercise. We talked about imagining going through having this happen, but you're handling it really beautifully, and how that feels, and feeling good about that. And then rehearsing that in your mind's eye over and over and over again, like an astronaut who's going to go on a mission. He or she would do hundreds of simulations. So by the time they get up there in space, something happens. They've already been there. They've done that. They know how to handle it. And so if you were able to do this, please comment. And you know me, the non-multitasker will do my best to look over and see if I can see you and respond to you as best I can. If you got a chance to do it, great. If you didn't, then you might want to do it this next week. But I want to introduce you to Lisa Copeland. I just love her. She is such a hero of mine. Aww. And Lisa goes into a business that is known as a male-dominated business, the automotive industry. She's going to be a car salesperson and actually have a dealership, right? Yeah. But had she gone in and just been a top producer, I'd have admired that and respected that, as I would for any top producer, of course. Had she done it the way they do it, I'd have admired it. She'd followed a system, followed the way it's been done it better than anyone else, and set records. Great, but that's not what she did. Oh, she set records. She set amazing records as far as sales goes, but she didn't do it their way. She did it her way. She did it in a good way. And she did it in a way that absolutely brought value to people as they understood it. What she did is she tapped into their belief systems and treated them as they wanted to be treated. And wow, did it work out. Lisa, how far off am I on that? Or is that exactly what you did?
Well, I'm going to tell you that you officially have the job of giving my eulogy at my funeral. because I love the way you tell that story. I'm not sure how off or on it is, but I'll tell you this. I loved the automotive industry, but more so than the automotive industry, I loved the people, whether it was my employees or it was my customers. And I came at it with a different lens that we were in the job, we were in the business to serve people and to delight people. And along the way, we would sell a few cars and we would serve their transportation needs. But I really loved the relationships and the friends that I made along the way.
Mm-hmm. So one of there's a couple things that you say that I absolutely love. One is, and unfortunately I always get this wrong. And by the way, you know what? I do not have your book right here with me, and I should, so I could hold it up. Do you have Crushing Mediocrity?
Well, just because you asked. See?
Get this book. This is a wonderful book, Crushing Mediocrity.
10 Ways to Rise Above the Status Quo.
Yeah, with your friend René Banglesdorf, who also is a fantastic, also went into a male-dominated industry and just
absolutely, she's amazing.
Yeah, and so one of the things you say, and I always mess this up, so I apologize, but it's good to do the good. What do you say? That I always say I love that it's the right way to do things.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to blank.
I'm drawing a blank.
I know, but basically, I mean, doing good is, you have to do good to do good.
It's always good to just do good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, isn't that what we should all strive for? So many people are striving for greatness or to be at the top of the heap or to be whatever. And, I just say, I just want to, to me, I'm good if I can just do good every day.
Yeah.
Versus having these ups and downs and peaks and valleys. If we could just do good every day, I think the world's going to be a better place.
Yeah. And always looking to do good by people. So how did you teach your sales executives to put yourself in the other person's shoes? Someone comes in, they want to buy a car, but it's more than just buying a car. It's an experience. So how do you, when you don't know who this person is, you don't know their background, you don't know their likes and dislikes. So how do you put yourself in the other person's shoes?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing I would say to that, for anybody who's hiring a sales force or managing a sales force, it starts with the hiring. So one of the first questions I would ask people is, why do you want to work here? Number one, or why do you want to be in the automotive industry? Because so many people that I hired, probably 80% of my sales force had never been in the industry before, and that's the way I liked it. Mm-hmm. So there were two answers I was looking for. One was a good one and one was not such a good one. The first answer was, I would get a lot, well, because I love cars. And I'd be like, But the person who said to me, because I love people, got the job. Because you see, I know that you can train people to sell, but you can't train people to have heart. Either they have it or they don't. And, I just ingrained it in them. We're not in the automotive industry. We're in we're not in the car business. We're in the people business. And when we delight the people, when we stand for something bigger, as an organization or as a company, then the people will buy whatever we're selling, even that little micro car in the land of trucks and SUVs.
Mm-hmm. And so I want to take that a little deeper, because you also talk about, if you want to make the sale, it's not a sale, it's a mission. And you've got to feel a mission. It reminds me of what one of my great friends, Lisa Earl McLeod, talks about in her book. She has a number of books and they're all brilliant, but she says one book is Selling with Noble Purpose, and the other is Leading with Noble Purpose. And she tells a wonderful story, and I'll ask you to comment on this and then talk about your mission that you have. She tells a story about she was with a company. She was brought in by a pharmaceutical company to find out why the people who were the top producers were the top producers. And so she's interviewing them and going on their calls with them. And she's asking this one person who was the number one producer, how did that happen? Why are you the number one producer? What did it for you? And she said, Lisa, here's what turned it around. She said, I was doing well, but one day I was in a doctor's office and I had this particular drug, whatever it was she was selling. And she says, one of the women who looked like a grandmother was in the office waiting, and she obviously overheard me talking to the receptionist and saying who I was. So she said, are you with so-and-so drug company? She said, oh, yes. She goes, do you sell the so-and-so drug? And she said, yes, I do. And the woman said, you gave me my life back.
Oh,
I am now able to get down and play with my grandchildren, which I could not do. I can now hug my grandchildren, which I could not do. I can now go out and do, and she went on a litany of everything she could now do.
right.
And she said, and so the pharmaceutical rep said to Lisa, I'm not in the business of selling pharmaceuticals or drugs. She said, I'm in the business of giving people their lives back.
Wow.
That was her noble purpose. And what Lisa showed, and which, you know, you and I, we talk about, but I just thought it was such a wonderful example, is that when you put giving value first, when you place the other person's interest first, that's also profitable. It's not just the right way to be. It's much more profitable because, again, as we say, no one's buying from us because we have a quota to meet. They're buying because they believe they'll be better off by doing so than by not doing so. So how do you take, you know, Lisa's noble purpose, what you call the mission, and building a movement? How do you take that, Lisa, and apply it not just to, because you're not just speaking to automotive salespeople, even though you're totally in demand across the country, just obviously for obvious reasons, because you know how to help market a segment, buy cars, that everyone else has blown it for years. Okay, so now you're speaking everywhere and for everyone. So how does any salesperson, any leader who wants their team to buy into a mission, how does any salespeople how do they start a movement?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is.
I'm not going to try to say that what we did was as noble as your friends, the other Lisa, because she really did. I mean, she changed people's lives. You know, that one pill made it where I personally could not imagine if I could not get on the ground and play with my 2 grandsons. Like, that would be devastating to me. So that to me is an amazing.
Look at our friend Sherry.
Yes, gosh. Hi, Sherry. You know she's watching. Sherry Matthews, you rock star. Yeah. You know,
I love her.
Sherry. Yeah, so people like Sherry, you know, who invented the Heal in Comfort shirt so that women could truly heal in comfort after recovering from, it's probably the worst surgery any woman could have, you know, a mastectomy. And so, yeah, so I'm not.
And men. And men.
That's right. So I am not going to try to claim to play in those ranks, but I will tell you what my belief was. And, you know, is that I came back in the automotive industry to revolutionize it. You know, I came back with a different lens. You know, I wanted to empower women consumers to be able to make good choices when it came to buying cars. Now, women influence 85% of all car purchases. They spend 14 hours before they ever hit the car dealership. Now, these are averages, right? 14 hours doing research on the cars, on the company they're doing business with, and on safety. Safety is a really big one. And then when they hit the car dealership, they get a totally different experience. And why I became so passionate about it is because I went to go buy a new car before I came back in the car business. And I was the CEO of my own company, and I was writing a check for it. And it was a 6-figure car. And literally, I got to the showroom, and it was a Porsche. I'll tell you guys right now, there's only one Porsche dealership in town. So if they're watching it, they know this story. And it was a Porsche Cayenne Turbo. And I walked in and I said, I want that car right there. And he said, you know, I said, but I'd like to drive it. I've read all about it. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, you know, why don't you bring your husband back? And I was furious. Whoa. I was absolutely furious. And it set me down a road. See, I think everything happens for a reason. Whoa. And yeah, it sent me down a road of, oh no, buddy, you know, I mean, you obviously misread the book. And so when I came back in the automotive industry, you know, that became my battle cry. That became what I was going to be known for. And so I went out very publicly. I wrote a blog, Buying Cars Her Way. You know, I did a lot of press around it. And I was warned by a lot of people within my industry, like, hey, you better back down, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that don't like you, and they're going to come against you, you know, within the industry. And what I determined was, you know, that was the common enemy between my female customers and myself. Was never my competitor down the street. It was the industry itself. Because not only, and where I could bond with my female customers is because I too was also was in a minority of, you know, female car dealers, general managers, whatever. And so, you know, I every day took the same trek that they took 2 or 3 times, maybe in a lifetime, 5 times in a lifetime. And so, you know, we bonded over the fact that I was the anti-car dealer. And we bonded over the fact that I was forever grateful that they would, you know, trust me with their hard-earned dollars to sell them a car. Wow. And that was the movement. You know, it was buying cars her way. And the fact that when they came into my dealership, they were going to see female salespeople, females in leadership, myself, and they were going to have the same treatment that every customer deserves. People talk about the fact, well, we've got this at the car dealership and we give women better treatment. Well, shame on you. Every customer, man, woman, black, white, Hispanic, whatever it may be, everybody deserves equal treatment. And I think that's all women consumers have ever said. They're not expecting anything more, but darn it, they're expecting the same treatment as a man, or in my case, as my husband would have gotten walking in to buy that car. And so, every day I just pounded that in, and I had a great team, and it all starts with hiring the right people that would honor that, honor my commitment as the dealer to give women and all of our buyers an excellent buying experience.
One thing I loved what you said in that entire explanation, which I thought was wonderful, was when you said that your competition was not, or your not roadblock, but the enemy,
a common enemy.
Common
right?
enemy was not the competition down the street. It was the industry.
Yep.
It was the industry who did things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like being dismissive to a woman who came in with the cash to buy a car that that to me is just, I mean,
I had a $128,000 check in my purse. I was writing a check for the car.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he gave away that sale by just saying something.
He wouldn't even let me drive the car. He said, "Where's your husband? Why don't we get your husband down here?" And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me! I'm the CEO of a major company here in town." So yeah. Right. But you know what? I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, no, and I understand that absolutely. Yeah. Because look at how many lives you've been able to touch because of that one incident, and it's got to make a great story from stage.
Yeah, it does, and it ignited such a passion in me. And I talked so much about what is your underlying purpose, and so I was the CEO of my own company, which is still in business today. It was a financial services, mortgage, and insurance company, and life was good, but I was going through the motions every single day. I was doing my job. I was making a lot of money, very high profile. And, but then that one event, and, and I tell people, especially you and I are both speakers when I'm on stage, I'm like, what is that one event? And sometimes it's a tragic event, which those are terrible, or sometimes it's an event like what happened to me, because in my mind, I thought, my God, I mean, here I am sitting in Austin, Texas, a successful, white female, and I just got treated like this. How is everyone else treated who isn't like that, who isn't like me? How are these consumers treated in the one of the most important industries in our nation, which is the automotive industry? And it started something in me that to this day, I mean, it just stokes every single day, because I have women that write me, whether they're working in the industry or whether they're consumers. I mean, I must refer 15 to 20 car deals a month, because a lot of women in my town, a lot of women all over the country, they know what I stand for. And they're like, will you look at my car deal? Will you look at this? Will you look at that? And yeah, it's just, something ignited in me that I was going to become the champion, and I was going to start the movement for, women consumers, buying cars her way. It needs to be her way, but every consumer needs to have it their way. Yeah. And the automotive industry has been the last one to get the memo.
And, and here's an interesting thing that, we talked about Lisa Earl McLeod and the woman with the pharmaceuticals who gave the people their lives back. We talk about Sherry Matthews, who experienced something so traumatic that she didn't want any woman or man to ever have to experience that. We have you, who had 120,000 or whatever in your check ready to write out, who was treated not in the right way, and think, okay, I can build a mission around that. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be anything even that spectacular or earth-shattering.
No,
it can be anything you're doing that is somehow, some way bringing value to the marketplace, bringing value to others. You've simply got to, and we'll go back to stepping in the other person's shoes. It's just asking, what does that person need? What do they want? What do they desire? What can make their life better in some way than what it is right now?
Yeah, and I think that it really helped me define what my underlying purpose was. Like, again, I was successful before,
Mhm.
but, I never felt it was a mission. And, and now I feel like, I talk about in my new book, when I talk about purpose, right? And I talk about building a movement, in a movement, there's got to be a common enemy, like I just defined for myself, which was the industry itself. And if you think about it, without a villain, what is a superhero? Who is Batman without the Joker? I mean, he's just a guy in tights. We don't need Batman if there was no villains. And so, every single person, Bob, out there has it in them to start their own movement. And it starts with, what is your underlying purpose? What is it that gets you out of bed if you didn't get paid or you didn't get famous? If you would just do it because it's the right thing to do. And for me personally, it is to be a champion for women and women consumers.
Okay. This is wonderful. Jeff Shore has a question. Jeff Shore, by the way, is one of the top sales people, top sales trainers, top sales speakers in the world. He also has a great new book out, by the way. I didn't even know he was going to be on this call. It's called Handling Sales Objections, 8 reality-based techniques for tackling tough objections. It's very short. It's very easy to read. I'm halfway through, but he's so class, and he's such a great guy. He shows how, again, talk about stepping into the other person's shoes. It's all about not answering a surface objection, which probably isn't actually the objection, right? It's about discovering what's really in that other person's heart. Where are they feeling there's something that's not exactly what they are, So it's a wonderful book. So make sure.
Yes. Well, hi, Jeff.
And he's on there. So Jeff, make sure, if you don't mind, you please put where you can, where we can get the book, where people can order it. Jeff has a question. Lisa, we know that people buy, and by the way, I've got to say, I'm multitasking extraordinarily well this afternoon.
I'm so proud of you, Bob.
I'm so the worst at that. Yes. Lisa, Jeff asks, we know that people buy on emotion and support that decision with logic, yet salespeople so often struggle to engage emotionally. So true. How can salespeople connect with the emotion without being sappy or inauthentic? Wonderful question.
That's a great question, Jeff. And I think I would just take it back to my original statement that when I would hire people, why are you coming in? Are you in, we're not in the car business, we're in the people business. And I think that salespeople have got to have the mentality that they're in the people business. And there are so many of them out there that are just commodity players. They're doing it for the money. They're not doing it out of a passion for people. And I don't care if you sell insurance, mortgages, cars, which, by the way, I have sold every single one of those. It has to be people first. And the people that I've hired, myself included, when they've got that mentality, business is unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable because, we know, all of us can, sense a fraud or a fake or someone who's inauthentic right away. And Jeff, I think that there's just so many salespeople out there that just get into it for the money. They get into it for the hustle. They get into it for the game. And you and I both, we all know those people. Unfortunately, I had some of them work for me over the years in all industries. And those are the people that might monetarily for a little while make more money. But the ones who are in it for the long haul, the ones who want to have a career and a business and a sustaining business that's referral based are the ones who serve people every single day.
Exactly. I was going to say the first way is not sustainable. It just isn't sustainable.
No,
you got to work too hard.
It works, but it works okay for a little while. And then what happens is that the well dries up and that person moves on to their next gig.
Stephanie Newman writes, the most difficult situation is when the prospect won't say their objections out loud. And Stephanie, here's the thing. And Lisa, I'll ask you to comment after this. And of course, Jeff talks about it in his book. There's a couple reasons why they don't say their objections out loud. One is they may not necessarily even know what it is. They know they're feeling something. And this is where empathy comes in and asking the right questions coming in and being human comes in, but they don't know. See, they only know that the value they're seeing is here and the price is here, or that there's something where if you ever watch the old Spider-Man comic strips or the movie where he gets Spidey sense, right? There's something that's gone. They know there's something that's not quite. But remember, in the business you're in, and Stephanie, I don't know what the business is, but I guarantee you do what you do all the time. So you know every aspect of that business, but with them, it might be the one time or the 2 or 3 times in their life they do business, so they don't know, but they don't know exactly what to ask, what they should ask. So that's why a lot of times what we've got to do, and then we can only do this once they feel comfortable with us, as they know us, they like us, they trust us, is to be able to dig deeper and help get to the real objection as opposed to simply the manifestation of the objection. Lisa?
Yeah, no, that's great, Bob. And I would just add to that, and Stephanie, is that the majority, at least in the automotive industry or in the other industries I've been in, my personal experience has been that when they feel like that, it's fear-based. You know, one of two things hasn't happened. First of all, it's fear-based. Like, you know, it almost hits them like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to buy a car. And they panic and they start to retreat, which is, you know, a normal. They're spending a lot of money. The other one is that the salesperson did not do a good job, as you said, Bob, along the way, talking to them, qualifying them, asking them the questions,
Right.
you know, and then sometimes with salespeople, and I hope there's a lot watching, you talk too much. You know, you can talk yourself right out of a sale. So versus us talking about how great we are, how great our product is, how great our price is, we need to be asking questions. You know, how do you feel about this car? You know, how do you feel about this payment? You know, do you feel like this payment fits within your household budget? You know, and when you start asking those questions, you start breaking down the walls. But when you ask a question, you've got to zip and listen for the answer. Because I've seen salespeople that I've trained over the years, and they ask the right questions, but they just fire the questions at people versus asking the questions and being quiet and listening and waiting for the response. That's how you build an authentic relationship. And people need to treat their customers just like they would treat when they're having a conversation, just like they would be treating their best friend having a conversation. When they've got anxiety and they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go buy a car. And your friend, you would go, well, okay, what are you afraid of? Like, is it too expensive, or you're worried about the safety? What is it? And that's where you become a consultative is what I'm trying to say. Sales professional, you know? And Bob, just exactly what you say in the Go Giver Influencer. You step into their shoes.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful answer. Hey, I wanted to, and by the way, again, Jeff's book is Handling Sales Objections. And Jeff, I haven't seen if you put jeffshore.com, jeffshore.com. You got to get this. It's really good. Lisa, hold your book up. I have one more question I have to answer. Hold your book up again. This is such a wonderful book, Crushing Mediocrity. She wrote this with René Banglesdorf, also a wonderful entrepreneur. This book, just get this one.
Female jet broker.
It's really, female jet broker. Yeah, both of you went into, you know, male-dominated industries and didn't just crush it, but you did it your way. You kind of redefined the game. Last, and I forgot to answer this question, and we got it last week, but it was at the end, and I didn't see it. So Kathy, nice enough, my awesome business partner, Kathy Tajanel, she texted me. I am getting so, you know.
I'm proud of you. You're really getting good.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was Stephanie Hoffa Skalkowski's question from last week. How do you address the statement, but I want to be authentic? If I feel something, I will express it. I think I was talking about communicating with tact and kindness and saying that you can speak, you should never, what I said, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, is that we should never confuse tact with compromise. Okay. In other words, you can always speak to someone tactfully and kindly without compromising your values. Okay. In other words, you just don't attack. You don't have to attack someone because you disagree with them. Instead, you can go. And so the question is, well, but how do you remain authentic if you really want to attack that person? Well, it's the same as anything else. It's not a matter of, well, I would go like this. Okay. It's sort of like the person who says, well, I have anger issues and I yell at people a lot. And if I were to act any other way, that wouldn't be authentic. And I would say that's hogwash. That's baloney. What it means is that this person has an authentic problem that they need to authentically work on in order to become a higher, more effective, authentic version of themselves. See, authenticity doesn't mean embracing your weakness. Now, we should acknowledge our weaknesses. There are some weaknesses we need to mitigate. There are some weaknesses we need to turn into a strength, okay? But typically what we want to do is not say, oh, well, that's just me, and if people don't like it, that's tough luck for that. We can say that, but it's not going to make us very effective.
Right.
So what we want to do is we want to make it we want to make part of our authenticity the part that we don't just burst out and scream at people, or we don't just insult people, or we don't just. So I would say there is no dichotomy between being polite and kind and gracious and getting the results you want. Okay, so it's not like one needs to be. So I hope that answers the question sufficiently. But if not, please write to me and let me know, and give me even more of the context if in case I blew it and didn't really answer what you were asking. We are just about out of time, and I could talk to you all day. You know that. Again, Crushing Mediocrity is her book. You tell us about your fate. You have a bunch of shows and sites and everything. Tell us about that, and then and I know Kathy will be jotting it down, and I'll do the same thing. Where can people find your shows that you have? Your Facebook Live show. You have a book club. You've got everything. Oh, of course, Kathy already has up your website.
Of course she does. Yeah, you know, I guess the plug I'd like to put in is that I'm finishing my latest book, The Art of the Big Sell.
Yes.
And it's really about how to build a movement within your organization. But you know, I even highlight people that have started their own personal movements in business, and versus, and it's a sales book, and but it talks about, I teach people how to stop selling. Like, selling is so yesterday. Stop selling, start mobilizing, start, figuring out what is the purpose, what is your underlying purpose, what is the purpose of your business. And then from there, you find the common enemy, just like I did, which I show people how to do. And then you mobilize your champions, because see, your champions will be the best sales force that you'll ever have. And you know what? They don't even cost you any money. And I had champions, I still have champions like you, Bob, and I'm forever grateful to this day that, I don't have to advertise my business. I don't have to do anything. I get referrals and I get meetings because of my champions. And I know you do too. And so everybody out there, I want to encourage you, you have a movement inside of you. Which that kind of sounds weird, but you have it inside of you when it comes down to, what is your underlying purpose? What is the one thing that drives you, that gets you out of bed every single morning? And it would, even if you didn't get paid, or you didn't get famous, or if you were not recognized for it. Because and then once you figure that out, you've got to figure out how to monetize it, and you'll have the greatest business in the world and the greatest life in the world.
Oh, that is so awesome. Thank you, Lisa. And thanks for being our guest. Hey, as we wrap up, I want to remind everyone that April 10th, which is next Tuesday, my buddy John David Mann's and my newest book in the Go-Giver series, The Go-Giver Influencer. Again, you'd think I'd have one right here to hold up. I don't.
Go through my sales course, Bob.
I really do need to. I need to kind of get with it. I don't know. And so you can go to thegogiver.com, no hyphen, thegogiver.com. On the right-hand side, there's a purple-looking book. Click on it. You can pre-order it if you'd like, but you can download the first 2 chapters, see if you like it. But it will be out Tuesday, April 10th, and I hope you enjoy it. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. I thank everyone. I will go back and look at the comments later, respond to everyone. If you have any questions that you want answered for next week, let me know that as well. In the meantime, I wish everyone a fantastic rest of the day and a great rest of the week. For Lisa Copeland, my name is Bob Burg. This is Go-Giver Influencers, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.